Alright, we're going to be tearing down a 1996 Kawasaki KX80, and we will tear apart the top end, we'll tear apart the stator, the flywheel, the clutches, we'll split the case, and take apart the transmission, the crankshaft. Now I've loosened several of these just to save time. We've got your cylinder head bolts here, and when you loosen these you want to do it in a cross pattern, and when you tighten them especially, they'll want to be torqued. You want to do them in a cross pattern. That way your gasket isn't damaged before you even start. Here's your head gasket here. Here's the dome, you can see is damaged here. You want to make sure that's all cleaned up and good before you start. We've got a hose clamp here for the radiator. We can loosen this clamp, pull this hose off. We've got the intake boot with the reed valve here. We have 4 8mm bolts holding this on. 2 in the corners, 4 in all 4 corners here. We've got your intake boot right here. I'm gonna make sure these tabs are still intact. Make sure this O-ring is good. Make sure there's no cracks in it and it's not weathered. We've got your reed valve here. Here's your pedals, and that is an intake reed valve there. We will continue taking off the cylinder here. We've got these 4 head bolts here, or excuse me, the cylinder base bolts here. Again, you want to make sure you take those off in a cross pattern. Same way going back together. We'll make sure these are torqued to the proper torques in your book. So make sure the 4 bolts or nuts are off here, and we'll be able to pull this cylinder. And you can just walk this cylinder up like this. You can see here this piston is damaged. Here's your base gasket here. It looks like it was damaged probably when it was put together. Sometimes if you have a base gasket issue, you can see coolant spots all the way through. Make sure that gasket service is cleaned up and in good condition before going back together. You've got your piston here, and we'll pull that piston, and I'll show you how to do that. You take a pick, is what I use, and put it in the side of the piston here into where these clips are. What you'll do is take and kind of pry that clip out. There's your clip there, and then you can just push the piston out, or the piston pin out. Sometimes you gotta persuade it a little bit. Just want to make sure you don't damage that crank. If that crank is still good, make sure you don't damage the pin. If the pin's still good, just you don't want any scoring on it. This one here is bad, so I just take a pair of side dikes here, pull this piston pin out. That piston will get thrown away. You've got your bearing here, and you want to make sure always replace those with a good one. That's a high wear item. So we'll go and we'll pull the stator assembly apart now. We'll pull the cover here, and that is just some 8mm bolts all the way around here. 2, 4, 6 8mm bolts. I have to pull that cover off. And we will, this cover here is plastic, and make sure that's in good condition. Where this one is cracked, it should go cover the sprocket here. I want to loosen the flywheel, so take this 14mm head nut off of there, and we will take a flywheel puller. Now you have to, this is a special tool, it's reverse threaded, so when you're spinning it on, well, I'll show you how this works here. You spin this onto the flywheel, the exterior threads, and then you spin this down, and this will push against the crank, pulling the flywheel out. So this is reverse thread, so we'll spin it this way to put it on. You want to make sure it's completely seated before you do anything. You don't want it to pull the threads out of the flywheel, or your flywheel is ruined. We can spin that down, and as you can see there, you spin it down a little ways and it'll pull that flywheel right off. So we've got your flywheel here. We can remove the puller, and you won't need any special tools to put that back on. You just want to make sure that this nut is good and tight on there, sucking that down onto the flywheel. It's tapered, so you can see why you need a puller for it. Now we have your stator here, and a lot of times what we'll use on a Phillips head screw on a motor is an impact here. We'll loosen these one time in the right direction. These will come right off of here, and that stator's free. Now you have to break that gasket there to get it off, but there's your stator assembly. And you want to, here's your pulser here, here's your coil here. Make sure that inspect those parts. You can test them. Check your notes in your manual for those specs. What we'll do now is flip this motor over, and we'll pull the clutch cover off. And again, I've loosened these bolts to save time. We've got your impeller assembly here, and 3 8mm bolts on this. And one there. Pull this cover. And this is a good gasket seal right here, so a lot of times that will take possibly just tapping on it with something to remove that. Your impeller is here, 8mm bolt holding that on. Just a small bolt there. Pull the impeller off. I'll keep those together. I got your Kickstarter gear here, 10mm bolt here. Just walk this off. Put that bolt back with that. Now pull this cover. You've got 8mm bolts all the way around. Go ahead and pull that. And oil will probably come out of here. Now to pull this cover off, what you can do is just take and turn this, and then a lot of times we'll push that away and break that seal. Take a little more work than that to get it off of here, but you just, there we go. Popped off there. It was stuck on this water pump shaft right here. What we'll do is pull this gear shaft off. That's your shifter shaft. It goes to the other side there. Okay, we'll pull that clutch. We've got a 17mm bolt down in the center of that.